Dust burned her lungs as she reached the last ranch for miles, heart pounding with a truth she couldn't outrun. She had nothing left to offer but her hands and her silence. Inside that gate waited either salvation, or the man who would change her fate forever. The wind came first, lifting the red dust from the trail and pressing it against her skirt as if trying to turn her back. She kept walking anyway, boots thin, soles nearly smooth, each step an argument with pain. By the time she reached the ranch gate, the sun was already leaning west, heavy and unforgiving. She stopped there, fingers wrapped around the rough timber, breathing like someone who had run far from something she could not name. The ranch was quiet in the way lonely places often are, quiet but not peaceful. A few cattle grazed beyond the fence, ribs showing. The barn leaned slightly, tired but still standing. Somewhere, metal rang against metal, slow and deliberate, like a man who worked because stopping would mean thinking. She followed the sound. He was shoeing a horse when she saw him, hat low, sleeves rolled, forearms dark with dust and sweat. The horse stood calm, trusting him in a way animals rarely trust people. He didn't look up at first. She cleared her throat, then tried again, softer, because something about him made loudness feel wrong. "Sir," she said. He finished the nail he was setting, gave the hoof a careful tap, then straightened. His eyes were the color of weathered wood, steady, not unkind, but guarded. He looked her over without haste, as if he had learned long ago that rushing a judgment only led to mistakes. "You lost?" he asked. "No," she said, then hesitated. "I don't think so." He waited. Silence stretched between them, not awkward, just honest. "I'm looking for work," she finally said. "Any kind." He wiped his hands on a rag. "You see many ranches hiring women to do any kind of work." She swallowed. "I can cook, clean, mend. I can ride, if that matters. And I can learn the rest. That all costs money," he said. "And I don't have much to spare." "I don't want pay," she said quickly, the words tumbling over each other. "I'll work for nothing. Just a place to stay. Food when there is some. I won't complain." That caught his attention. He studied her again, more closely this time. Her dress was patched, her hair pinned back with care that tried to hide exhaustion. Her eyes were bright, but there was something behind them, something that spoke of nights spent listening for footsteps, of doors locked too late. "People who work for nothing usually want something else," he said. She met his gaze and did not look away. "I want to live." The horse shifted, snorted softly, then settled. He rested a hand on its neck, grounding himself. "Name?" he asked. "Clara." He nodded once. "I'm Eli." He led the horse back to the stall, motioned for her to follow. They walked side by side, dust curling around their feet. "You running from someone?" he asked, not accusing, just careful. "Yes," she said, "but he won't come here." "You sure?" She nodded. "He doesn't cross open land. He likes walls. And crowds." Eli considered that. He had known men like that. He had been hired once to escort a woman back to her family, had seen fear sit in her bones like winter. "You can stay the night," he said. "We'll talk again in the morning." Relief hit her so hard she had to stop walking. She pressed a hand to her chest, nodded, and followed him to the small house near the barn. That night, she slept like someone who had been holding her breath for years. She woke before dawn, unsure where she was, then remembered. She rose quietly and started working before Eli even stepped outside. By the time he did, the stove was lit, coffee brewed thin but hot, the floor swept, a tear in a shirt mended with careful stitches. He stood in the doorway, watching her move, efficient, focused, as if work itself was a form of prayer. "You don't waste time," he said. "I don't know how," she replied. Days passed, then weeks. Clara did everything she said she would and more. She learned the rhythms of the ranch, the way Eli liked his meals simple, the way he talked little but listened deeply. She rode with him when he checked the herd, learned to read the sky, to feel when a storm was coming before the wind announced it. At night, they sometimes sat on the porch, not close enough to touch, but near enough to feel the warmth of another person. They spoke of small things. Weather, cattle prices, the way the land changed color at sunset. Once, she asked, "Why are you alone out here?" He took a long time to answer. "Because I waited for someone who never came. Then I realized waiting was easier than starting over." She nodded, understanding more than she said. Trouble came on a Sunday, quiet and sharp. A man rode up the trail just past noon, city clothes trying to pass for frontier wear. Clara saw him first and felt the world tilt. Eli noticed her freeze. "You know him," he said. "Yes." The man dismounted with a smile that never reached his eyes. "There you are," he said to Clara. "You've caused quite a mess." Eli stepped forward, placing himself between them. "This is private land." The man laughed. "She belongs to me." Clara's voice shook, but it did not break. "I don't belong to anyone." Eli's hand rested near his belt. "You heard her." The man's gaze flicked to Eli, measuring. He saw the stillness, the kind that came from a man who knew exactly what he would do if pushed. "This isn't worth it," the man said finally, backing away. "You'll regret this." "Leave," Eli said. The man did. That night, Clara sat on the porch, shaking. Eli brought her a blanket, draped it over her shoulders without asking. "You're safe," he said. She looked up at him, tears finally spilling. "Why did you do that?" He hesitated, then spoke the truth as simply as he could. "Because when you said you'd work for nothing, I saw someone who had given everything already. And because somewhere along the way, without meaning to, I realized you're the woman I've been waiting for." She laughed through her tears, a sound like rain after drought. "I didn't come looking for that." "Neither did I," he said. She took his hand then, not desperate, not afraid, just certain. The land stretched out around them, wide and patient, as if it had been holding space for this moment all along.